Is it better than the Bullet, or is Squier just full of it? Welcome back to the mix. I'm ABD. Today is part 2 of our review of the Squier Sonic series. Here we have a Strat in ultraviolet, I believe is what they call it. It's purple and it's very pretty, and it was very affordable. The new Sonic series is replacing, I believe, the Bullet line, and so it's their most affordable guitars they make for about 200 smackaroonies for this. And if you missed part 1, you can find that here. But in part 2, we can go over again, or we can start with the specs. It has a poplar body, which is what they usually use in the more affordable Tele or Strat type guitars from Squier. A lot of manufacturers will use poplar because it has a similar characteristic to alder. It has that kind of punch and mid-range that you come to expect from alder because it has similar tonal characteristics to alder and or ash maybe. But it's definitely not mahogany, or akuma, or Western African mahogany, or something like that. It is poplar. And because of that, it is very light. It weighs 7.6 pounds. It is very light. Maybe a little too light. I don't love incredibly light guitars. I'm realizing that the strap button down here is loose. It's loose because I'm able to turn it. That shouldn't be the case. So that needs to be tightened a little bit. Not a hard thing to do. That can bring me to one of the other things. It's not really a spec, but the metal that they use, the alloy, like zinc or whatever they're using on here, is not very good. It's not high quality. It's like wavy. It's kind of cloudy. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't look good. But back to the specs, 9.5-inch radius on a Laurel fretboard with tiny little vintage frets that are quite scratchy. They don't feel that great. Dot inlays. And ceramic pickups, which are new pickups from Fender for the Sonic series, and they are ceramic, and they do actually sound pretty good. It's one of my more favorite things or positive things about this guitar is the pickups. They are nice. The selector switch here does feel pretty cheap. The plastic on the tip feels cheap. Actually, moving the selector feels cheap. The plastic they use on the knobs for the pots is cheap, and the pots themselves feel cheap. I'm not going to take apart the guitar. I'm not going to take the pickguard off because the guitar is going back because it had a big crack, which is a common thing in cheaper guitars. Poplar wood likes to crack like in the same spot right there where the neck connects to it. And that's what happened to me because it was bouncing around and shipping for quite a while, but that's okay. The tuners are not very good. They don't stay in tune that well. Now I tuned it maybe about a week ago and I haven't touched it, and as you can tell, it did not stay in tune. Not even close. So we'll tune it up. Tuners are not very good. The nut is not bad. It's not seated that well in there. There's like a little gap between the wood and the nut itself. It's cut pretty well. It looks okay. It's definitely a cheap nut, like a plastic nut. But my issue doesn't really seem to be in the nut, and that's not really one of my problems. The fretboard, the fret work, being a little scratchy is an issue. The tuner's not staying in tune is a bit of an issue. The neck, I talked about in the first part, the satin finish on the neck does not feel very good. And if you look at it in the light, you can see a ton of marks from sanding and unevenness. So it was sanded kind of unevenly, and it was also kind of sprayed unevenly with the satin finish, because when I move up and down the neck, I can feel, especially up here, there was a bunch of overspray, and there was too much, and it wasn't level, and some of it grabs your hand a little more than other parts of the neck. And so the neck doesn't feel great. The neck, I believe, is a standard C-shape Fender neck. We have a contour gauge that we can do a quick test to see what exactly it looks like. So at the first fret, you get this pretty small neck profile, which is definitely a C, a standard Fender kind of C, modern C. And if you go up to the 12th fret, you get a much wider but also very similar C-shape, which again just looks like a modern Fender C-shape. And as far as the thickness of the neck, if you go up to the nut here, 21.1, and at the 12th we're getting 30.4 millimeters. And so again, it's a pretty standard C-shaped Fender neck that you would find on like the Made in Mexico series. But instead of a rosewood fingerboard, you get Laurel, which does look very good. I think it feels okay, unless that kind of scratchiness that I'm getting is coming more from the fretboard and not as much from the frets. It's hard to tell. I didn't polish them or anything or condition the fretboard or anything like that. I kind of just left it how it was. The pickguard is worth pointing out. It's a little different than like a Fender. Instead of being white, black, white, it's white, like light blue white or light purple white. And so that's enough talking about the guitar for now. We can plug it into a tube amp first to get some tones, and then into a simulated amp next. And then we can wrap it up and give our final thoughts on it. But we're going to plug it into a tube amp. We have a Hughes & Kettner Tube Meister 20 into a Mesa Boogie cabinet with a V30 speaker. We have some pedals on the floor, and let's hear how it sounds very quickly, and then we'll move on to some neural DSP stuff. So with no pedals on, everything all the way at 10, on the neck pickup, here's what you get. So there's a little bit of hair and dirt on that pickup for sure. Ceramic pickup, neck position. We're definitely getting a little bit of feedback because of the lights down here. But if we go to second position, that feedback goes away, and you get... If we go to the bridge pickup, here's what you get. We turn on a little reverb and go back to the neck. We try a rat distortion. Here's what you get. Try it with a compressor and a chorus, because why not? Turn off that compressor. I'm going to leave the chorus on, and I'm going to try some ultra metal distortion. So definitely not the best pickups for distortion, for like ultra high gain stuff. Obviously you know that they're single coil pickups, but they definitely get a little muddy and lose some definition when you get into really high gain distorted shit. Try a micro Qtron, kind of an Ottawa sort of thing. So it sounds pretty good. Doesn't sound too bad. Can't really complain about the pickups, about the playing experience, besides it being really scratchy up here on the fretboard. So we can plug it in now into an interface, DI, and we're going to use Neural DSP's Petrucci to get some simulated amp tonage. And so we can turn off the amp, the Hughes & Kettner. One great thing about digital amps is they don't get as loud and they're easier to deal with. And so let's try it out, shall we? So we're already out of tune because these tuners are not very good, so I'm going to tune it back up. And this setting is called clean chordal, so we have some clean chords. We are on the neck. Moving on, we have something a little heavier. Let's try great for tapping. Cool. Moving on, we have fat lead. Go to the bridge for that. pretty much it. We've gone through it. We went through the specs. We played it through an amp and some pedals. We played it through a simulated amp with Neural DSP. And so overall, if I had to rate it out of 10, maybe a 7. It's not terrible. I think that I enjoy it better than the Bullet series. And so then again, it's a cheap guitar. It's $200, so you can't have expectations that are too high. But in today's world, there's so many great manufacturers out there that make guitars for incredibly cheap, great prices, about $200, $100, $150. If you get something from like Harley Benton, or about as much as this, that I think are better guitars. So, you know, you might think that I'm being like a little harsh judging a guitar that's so cheap, but in today's world, there's too many great options for like no money. So you have to be harsh on one of the biggest manufacturers in the world, Fender, when they come out with a new, cheap, affordable guitar that they want a lot of people to play. So for your first guitar, I think it's great. If you really want the vibe of a Strat or a Tele, they have a couple other options in the Sonic series. They have a couple basses. But what did you think? Let me know in the comments if you think it's a great guitar, if you think I'm being too harsh, if you think you just need to get this and you never need to buy a Fender ever, because Squier is doing stuff that's just as good. You could change the tuners, maybe the pickups, and you're good to go. Polish the frets. So what do you think? Let me know. Thank you for watching. If you watched the whole thing, I do appreciate it. Like and subscribe would also make me very happy. So until next time, be cool, play guitar, and thank you to Squier for making cool stuff. Welcome back to the mix. I'm ABD. This guitar is too close. Shut up. Karate chop stop. Karate chop mute. Karate chop mute. Welcome back to the mix. I'm ABD. Ba-da-dee-doo-doo. Be-dee-dee-doo-doo. Welcome back to the mix. I'm ABD. Today is the second part in a review of the Squier blah 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 Sonic series.